Hi, I'm Mike, and this is the Green Pearl, my boat that I've been coastal cruising for 2 years. I wanted to step up my game to Bluewater sailing, and I got an invitation to sail from Fiji to Auckland, and this is what I learned about why coastal cruising isn't like Bluewater sailing. 24 hours since I found out that I'm getting to go on a boat from Fiji back to Opa, which is super exciting for me because I've been wanting to do it for ages. When Daniela posted on her Patreon chat group that unfortunately they were only going to have 2 crew members to bring a boat back from Fiji instead of the planned 4, I half jokingly put up a message saying, hey, just say the word and I'll book my plane ticket up there. Anyway, I checked the group a couple of hours later and she sent me a message saying, hey, are you serious? And I hesitated for a couple of seconds. I thought, you know what, just got to go for it, you know. So I said, yes, I'm really keen. Anyway, she passed on my name to Captain Peter. After a quick chat, he said he was keen for me to come up, and I was so excited. Anyway, I put down the phone, and like 5 minutes later, the enormity of it hit me, and I was like, oh my god, I'm going on a boat to Fiji, I'm gonna die. So, woke up at 3, couldn't get back to sleep, just running around in my head, have I got everything I need? Checking the weather forecast, trying to download maps while I've still got Wi-Fi, but no, so stoked. Off to the airport, let's go. Landed at Nadi and grabbed a taxi straight to the marina. After a cup of coffee, we went and met the boat. It's a Tayana 52, which is a heavier displacement Bluewater cruiser, which proved to be fortuitous given the weather we were going to get later on in the voyage.
How are you feeling about tomorrow?
Super excited. It'll be good to get out of the heat and some wind and actually do some sailing, so that'll be fantastic, but we're not gone yet.
Yeah, hopefully we're not having to motor too much tomorrow.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And do some sailing. That's what we come out here to do.
Yeah.
We don't want to motor for 8 days. Yeah, should do it.
This morning, so
What time was that?
about 7 or 8 o'clock this morning, so pretty light. There's big wind holes really, isn't there?
Yeah.
But it looks like coming the last third actually is going to be okay, doesn't it? This bit here.
Holy shit, it just disintegrated. Yeah. Oh yeah. See, this is why we did this. Because all of this...
We spent a couple of days getting used to the boat, learning all of its systems and going through Captain Peter's checklists, just making sure that everything was okay. There was a couple of minor repairs, but after that we were ready to set off, so we're off to fuel up and leave through customs.
And you keep calling him a diesel mechanic.
He's our, yeah. You rebuilt a diesel, didn't you?
I love the first job. Get a generator going that has no injectors.
That was good. That was your first test. You passed. You didn't try to fix the generator that had no injectors.
If there is a problem, and there isn't any egregious issues that I can see immediately.
Yeah.
So if there's anything really bad, we'll just turn around, come back and do a bunch of paperwork. But I don't see that happening.
Sweet. Oh yeah, we've been working hard today, haven't we?
Oh my god, yeah, I'm sweating.
Yeah. Especially this guy.
Yeah.
Well done, sir.
Man, that was
You can come back.
So hot working in that midday sun.
Yeah.
Almost every forecast model showed more than 4 days motoring. So at the fuel dock we filled up every can we could find and we filled up every diesel tank to the brim. And then after that it was off to the customs dock and just to wait. Fair bit of paperwork to get through, but then finally we released to relieve, so off we went. See you later, Fiji. Just getting out through the pass, and then we're going to get this big number 1 up. Woo! Away we go. That's it. We're leaving.
to Fiji behind us.
Well, it was fantastic holiday weather, but as you can see, it was not conducive to sailing. And this was actually the start of about 3 days of very fleeky wind. We'd be able to sail for half an hour, but most of the time we had to keep our speed up to get back in some kind of time frame. And we really just had to wait for the wind, and you know, the engine droned on for hour after hour.
Tell me about when you and Connor first caught a fish.
We didn't know how to kill it.
With no sailing and no cell phones, there's nothing to do but fill in the log and keep an eye out for shipping. And the stories and yarns started to fill in the space. Accompanied by the endless drone of the diesel engine, the day turned to night, and to be honest, the sunsets were spectacular.
Alright, how's your first day?
One of the big things about coastal cruising is you're actually just sailing for 5 or 6 hours at a time. You get to stop, you get to eat, you get to rest, you get to go for a swim and cool off. But when you're sailing Bluewater, you're just on the whole time, and that's a huge difference, is the level of fatigue.
First complete set of watches done. Learning a lot about long distance sailing, that's for sure. Now I know why all these solo sailors get naked all the time. It's because basically you just sweat straight through everything you're wearing. Felt a bit sick last night. It's much better for me to be up on deck. I'm okay when I'm sleeping. Amazing sunset, sunrise, just coming up. Watched it come up, haven't seen any dolphins, seen a few birds around. I bought some lures for the fishing rod, but the fishing rod's a total piece of crap. Honest to God, if it was mine, I would have just thrown it in the skip at the marina.
And that brings up the next point about Bluewater sailing, which is what you set off with, that's what you've got for the whole journey. You know, you didn't check to make sure the fishing rod was okay. That's it. You're not fishing, you know. And it goes the same with nuts, bolts, spoons, gas, diesel, everything. You're basically isolated and you're on your own out there.
Well, we haven't seen them. I think we set off before them and we're pretty much motoring to get there. There's not enough wind to sail, but then again it means it's not rough either, so mixed blessing. Just sitting on the back of the boat. It's too noisy in the cockpit, to be honest. Just getting out of there for a break, just the engine's noisy, that's all. I just can't wait for the wind to fill in and start sailing, really. It's a beautiful boat.
Now the funniest thing is when you know it's time for you to go off watch and you hear your watchmate's alarm go off and you look down and you realise they've turned off their alarm and gone back to sleep.
That's crossing? Very little.
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah. Do you normally see animals on crossings?
I used to, not as much now.
Dang. That's dark.
Yeah, sorry.
So I can't remember if it's day 2 or day 3. No, it's Friday. Anyway, finally some wind. We've been motoring for 2 days now, and finally some wind came in overnight. See, we've got a friend sitting there on the pulpit. It's been hanging around. Landed yesterday just before dark. Still seems keen to hang around. Looking pretty scrawny. Tried to get a few photos, but we'll see. Still got a sick tummy, but I'm not feeling nauseous, thank God. So really we're just ghosting downwind, probably doing 4 knots, like if that. It's just like a little chop over a big long ocean swell. Just nothing dramatic. It's pretty peaceful actually. Total relief to have the engine turned off. Yeah, So everything's good. Just wondering what's making us all sick. Daniela's sick as well. Same thing as me. Yeah, I'm hoping it's not the water. I'm just gonna start boiling any water I drink. Predict wind had indicated that it was going to be pretty light at the start of the passage, and it was probably 3 days of solid motoring, and we were ripping through the diesel, and we weren't looking forward to trying to empty the jerry cans into the fuel tanks at sea, but thankfully, if there's one good thing about motoring, it's because there's not much wind, which meant there wasn't much waves, so all in all we didn't spill any and it went pretty well.
So, what did you do today that were 2 bucket list items?
Okay. I washed my clothes in a bucket of seawater. Awesome. And I had a bucket bath, upended buckets of salt water over the top of myself, and I must admit, I feel so much better.
And what I didn't realise at the time is you can wash your clothes in salt water, but they are not going to dry again, and everything I washed ended up mildew, and I really just ended up stuffing it in a plastic bag and threw it all in the washing machine when I got home.
And how are you feeling about all your watches?
Oh, it's getting easier and easier, to be honest, and I really think what you said, a book, a podcast, it makes all the difference basically. It's just the inactivity I find just makes my head start nodding, but once I had the podcast, that was actually good, and now I'm reading the book, I'm having a great time. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's not so hard to get up actually, because it was a little bit hard to get up for the first 2 days.
Yeah. My luck.
Day 4, grown a beard, can't be bothered shaving, stomach hurts, sailing's fantastic, well, when we're sailing it's fantastic. Any comments on day 4?
I wish my stomach didn't hurt, but you know, they love you. If you're not miserable, you're not a sailor.
Hopefully it's not that bad. Well, you can hear massive thunderstorms off in the distance, so Daniela's worried about the lightning, and I'm just thinking bring it on because I want more wind. At the moment the sea is like really confused, we're rolling around. And that's because
without the lightning.
Well, I don't know, I feel like the lightning makes it more exciting, doesn't it?
Not in a good way. We lose our autopilot, we lose our...
Oh my god, that doesn't even, I can't even think about that. Imagine losing the autopilot halfway, well not even halfway between Fiji and New Zealand, and having to steer the rest of the way.
That's what we had in the Grand Banks, 4 days straight.
Yeah.
I
just have one question to ask. Are we flying the drone?
Not in this weather. Hell no. We should have done it yesterday though. I thought about it, and then I also wanted to shit myself literally, and so when I thought about flying the drone, that made that feeling worse. So
the idea of losing your entire delivery fee, having to replace a drone, is not very not conducive to making money, is it?
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, I was like, nah.
And as luck would have it, we did actually end up having a few more camp spots, and Daniela did get a chance to fly a drone. Oh shit, that was close. Finally, the blue skies disappeared and we started to get some downpours, which were very refreshing and actually a portent of things to come. We chased the wind halfway across the Pacific and now we're in for it. And Windy and Predict Wind were pretty much telling us that for the last 2 or 3 days coming into Auckland, we were going to get 35 knots. So.
It's okay. If you weren't smiling, we'd be terrified. So.
It's dissipating.
No.
Yeah, it's going away.
That is nuts. Mike, are you disappointed?
I am a little disappointed actually. That would have made for one hell of an episode of Sailing Pivo if we would have been in the middle of a freaking water spout.
We could pretend like we were.
We just throw buckets of water over each other.
And finally, there it was. The wind started to fill in and the sailing was magic, to be honest. After all those days of motoring, the boat finally came to life and it started moving and the horrible diesel drone was gone. Well, what with the water spout, as you can guess, we're starting to see some activity and the wind started to build and build and build, just as Predict Wind suggested.
How you feeling?
Oh, good. This is, man, the boat is just plowing. It's like just loving it. It's just driving hard to windward
Yeah.
with the staysail and the jib.
So stable as a jib.
Of course, the big problem with sailing is too much wind or not enough, and we went from not enough wind to perhaps not too much wind, but plenty of wind. I think we saw the wind gauge peak out at 39 knots and the boat speed at 11 knots. As the wind grew, so did the waves. And after only a few hours, a 4 metre sea picked up and started coming straight in on the boat. This is how you waterproof your foul weather gear. Well, the camera does no justice to the waves at all, and you can see from Captain Peter here duct taping up his wet weather gear that it was super wet outside. There's water been thrown everywhere. At one point a wave rolled up the front of the boat and burst the actual clears that you can see in this part of the video. So it was fully wild, and 35 knots in the Gulf is nothing like 35 knots out in the open ocean. What you can't tell from this video is every time a wave hits the boat, it washes the back end of the boat right around, pulling us off course. And really the autopilot struggled the whole time, working backwards and forwards, just trying to keep the boat on track. And eventually there wasn't enough sun, the battery started to run low, so I actually had to go at hand steering for an entire shift using the wheel. And to be honest, also unlike coastal sailing, there is nothing to take a bearing off. You can't see anything. All you can do is stare at the compass card and do your best to keep it on track. And I'm sure you get better with practice, but 1 3-hour shift actually just exhausted me. It'd be very unusual to get 4 or 5 metre waves coastal sailing around New Zealand. If it was going to be like that, you simply wouldn't go. But of course out in the open ocean you get no choice in the weather. What's coming your way is what you get, and 35 knots results in 4 metre seas, although it doesn't look like it on the camera, but that water found its way in every leaking deck hole, every seam, every porthole, and actually the entire inside of the boat was saturated within about half a day of the bad weather starting. The upside of all this wind was that the boat was really moving and it just started reeling back the distance, and we really pretty quickly closed with New Zealand and actually came into the shelter of North Cape, and then a lot of the waves disappeared. And while it was still windy, you know, the boat was actually a lot more comfortable, and you can just hear see in this video, that's the poor knights just coming out of the gloom, and that's the first land we saw when we arrived back in New Zealand waters. Unfortunately, the difficulty was we worked the autopilot so hard and there was so little sun that actually the batteries were just drained flat, and in the end, despite there being plenty of wind, we had to start that bloody diesel motor again just to power up the autopilot. So you can really see why power on a boat is difficult when the weather gets bad.
Is it true? Is it true we're going to a magical place where people change their underwear every day?
Yeah.
Every single day?
And they take showers.
Oh, every single day? Unbelievable.
Oh, that's it. Whangarei Heads. Just in front of us. 8.5 days, roughly. Maybe 8 days. The last 2 days are windy AF. And I thought we were rolling around when there wasn't wind. Man, we were really rolling around when there was. Beam on most of the time. We were well into the shelter of the top of the North Island now, and you know, really the sailing was just serene. The last bit is typical of what you might find sailing in, you know, in the Hauraki Gulf. And you know, we just come in through Whangarei Heads. There's such a feeling of achievement. You know, you can see why people do this thing. It's really, you know, you're putting up with the hardship and you're getting to the end. And of course, you know, Whangarei Heads treated us with an absolute whistling breeze, but you know, the sun was out and we were just chilling out and just heading for customs dock really. So really nice. The owners of the boat were actually waiting for us at the end of the breakwater, and it was great to see them. They were the last people we saw when we left and their first people we saw when we left. So, and you know, hopefully we took care of their boat for them and got it here safe. It was a fantastic opportunity for me to be invited aboard by Captain Peters and Daniela, and they were amazing people and fantastic to cross with, and it's really something I'd love to try again sometime. So I'd just like to finish up this video by saying thanks. And while the trip from Fiji was finished, we still came back to a fabulous summer of sailing in the Auckland's Hauraki Gulf, and in the next video I'm going to talk about how sailing from Fiji made me way too overconfident.